Hello, boys and girls, and we've gotten to see so far multiple testimonies from people, Miss Harriet and Mr. Art, which has been cool. And this week, as well as next week, Miss Sandra and I thought it would be really cool if we asked each other the questions that you've heard from Mr. Art and Miss Harriet. That way you could hear a little bit about our testimonies. So this week, Miss Sandra is going to ask me the questions, and we'll let y'all find out. You guys get to know me a lot from how goofy I am on Sundays and Wednesdays, but this will let you know a little bit more about what Jesus has done in my life. So
Okay.
I'll turn it over to you there, Miss Sandra.
That sounds good. Okay, share first a little bit about your background.
Yeah, well, I have, as everybody knows, I'm married to my wife, Nicole, and by this point, most people know we have our first son on the way. He's due on February 14th, so Valentine's Day. I have two sisters as well. Depending on how long our friends have come to church here, you've gotten to meet my sisters because they've visited a couple times, and I'm the oldest. They're at 18 and 16, so I'm pretty way older than them, but they're both adopted from China and got to grow up with them, and they're really cool. And my parents still live in the same house I grew up in in Louisville, Kentucky. So yeah,
That's good. So when did you first hear about Jesus?
man, I've heard about Jesus my whole life, honestly. Both of my parents were Christians before I was born. And so I don't really remember a time where I didn't know who Jesus was. Like, we always talked about him growing up. And I know that you can't actually be born in a church. Like, you have to go to the hospital to get born. But it kind of feels like I was born at a church because if the doors were open, my parents were there, which meant I was there doing something. So my mom and dad have always taught Sunday school, and my dad's been a deacon and security team and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of time at church. And so really, I know that the first time I remember hearing about Jesus was right around the age that our kids are in elementary school. But really, my whole life, my parents talked about Jesus.
So when did Jesus become your personal savior?
Yeah.
Can you remember that time?
I do. You know, some people, when they talk about Jesus saving them, are able to like open up their calendar and say, oh, you know, this is my Jesus birthday. Like on this day at this time is when I remember accepting Jesus and trusting in him. And for me, I don't actually remember a specific day. I just, because we talked about Jesus so much, there was never a time where I didn't know who he was or what he had done for us. I always knew that God made us and we were supposed to be in a good relationship with him, and that our sin and our disobedience had separated us from him. But when I was in third grade, I was about 7 years old, 7, 8, I got baptized. And before I got baptized, the person who's the kids minister at the church I was going to at the time sat down with me and asked me why I wanted to be baptized and talked to me about the gospel, and drew a picture explaining the gospel and how God is over here and we're over here, but Jesus is the one who bridges the gap. And because he died in our place and came back to life, if we trust in him, we can be forgiven of our disobedience and brought back into a good relationship with him. And so before I got baptized, I remember that conversation when I was in third grade. And I remember leaving that time saying, I do trust Jesus. I admit that I'm a sinner. I admit that I need him to forgive me. And so then, you know, a couple weeks later, I think my dad baptized me. And so that time is when I look back and I say, I know then is when I trusted in Jesus. Now, I've spent the rest of my life learning what it means to follow Jesus. And there's a lot of things about Jesus and who he is that I didn't know all of the way. And I've learned more about his kindness and his love. But the most important part of the gospel, I remember then in about third grade.
So I'm going to ask you a question that relates to that a little bit. So you said something like you spent time getting to know more and more about Jesus. How did you do that? I mean, did you read about it? Did somebody tell you about it? How did you learn more and more about Jesus?
Well, the biggest way that I learned about Jesus, I guess there's really two things. My parents would read the Bible with me. And so they would just open up to Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, where we see Jesus doing things, and they would read to me about what he did. And because I went to church as a child, I heard the stories that we teach our kids now. I heard those, and my teachers taught me. And because the whole Bible is one big story, it's all about Jesus, and because Jesus is God, anytime you see God doing something in the Bible, you know that's Jesus doing it. And so when my parents read the Bible to me, I learned a lot about him. And so that was one of the main ways. But the other big way, is that when my parents lived their life, they love Jesus a lot. And it's very obvious from watching them. Because whatever Jesus says is what my parents do. And when Jesus says in 1 John that if you love me, you'll keep my commandments, or you'll listen to what I tell you to do, and he says that you'll know someone follows him because they act like him. My parents act like him a lot. And so I was able to see what Jesus was like because of what my parents did. So for example, Jesus is obviously really full of love, and the way that my parents treated me with love that was never based on, well, if you can be a good boy, then we'll love you, but when you're bad, then we're going to separate out from you. Like, they disciplined me when I was naughty, but they always loved me. And so I learned a lot about what Jesus is like from watching how my parents treated me, but also how they treated each other.
That's great. When kids read the Bible, or the Bible is read to them, it's so awesome when they can have an adult there.
Yes.
To explain to them
what
they were reading. So now that you're an adult, is there one important event or occasion that has helped you to know Jesus even better? Is there one experience that you've had where you've seen God in your life?
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I know that we have various of our kids here at Hayes Hills. School looks different. Some are homeschooled, some go to a Christian school, some go to a public school. But for me, when I was a kid and their age in school, I went to a public school. And so some of the people knew Jesus, some of them didn't, which is probably true anywhere. But for me, I remember where there were different times where people would not follow Jesus or honor Jesus. And God was really kind to let me have a few friends in my school. One friend in particular named Nick, who loved Jesus too. And we would sit together at lunch and talk to each other, and both carry our Bibles to class and that kind of a thing.
Good.
And it was cool because what Jesus taught me was that he's always with us. And so that no matter where we are, whether we're at church where everybody loves Jesus, or at least says that they do, or if we're in a place where most people don't really care about Jesus, that he's always with us, and that he is our friend, just like Nick was my friend with me through school. And so I think just knowing that no matter where I was, Jesus was with me, but that in giving me a very special friend to be around me was his way of showing me that he is the best friend and never goes away and is always with us.
Sometimes we don't think of him as our friend.
Yeah.
We think of him as a God who's very far away from us, but he
yeah.
is our friend, and he's
Absolutely.
He's right here. So right now, at this moment, at the time that you're living, what important thing has God shown you at this time of your life?
Oh, you know what? The last 6 months have been hard. And I think they've been hard for all of us because things have stopped working like normal, and then things sort of have acted like normal. But even though we get to go to school or go to the grocery store, things still are different. And I don't know about everybody else. I'm still not used to wearing a mask and stuff.
I'm not either.
I'm not used to it yet. And so things have been really weird and hard. And it's just been kind of crazy. But I think one of the things that God has taught me is that I'm not in control, but he is, and that's the best way for it to be.
That's the very best thing.
Because I try to say, well, I'm going to be the boss of my own life, or I'm going to do things my way, and that's really the heart of what it is to sin and to disobey, and God has just shown me that this, as we're thinking about having to wear masks and be distanced and those kinds of things, and how things have been just different and scary. It's been because of this little tiny thing called the coronavirus that we can't even see. And there's something I can't even see with my eyes without a microscope that's changed the way we all have to act. And it's been kind of scary, but he's still there and he's still in control. And I think what he's been showing me is that, like this morning, we've gotten to be at church and we get to be here and with one another, and that he still loves us and he's still in control, and that it's just much better for him to be the one who's in charge of things than me.
It's much better. I don't want to be in charge of
No,
this.
no,
I want
not
God
even
to
a little
take
bit.
care of us. I do, for sure. Okay. Say thank you to Pastor Ethan, and if you see him in the hallway, give him a air high five.
I like it. Air high five.
Air high five. Give him a wave. Tell him hello, and we'll see you another time.
Yes,
Bye.
we will. Bye, guys.
Bye.